One of the most important events of the South African retail on the South African retail calendar, Black Friday, is fast approaching, and according to some studies, retailers predict a better than expected or better than last year's sales season, with most consumers reporting that they are in fact in a better financial position. Joining me to discuss some of the trends that can be expected at this year's shopping bonanza, we are joined by Christine, who is Chief Executive for Everyday Banking at Absa Group, Craig Pitchers, the CEO of the Courier, and Haeri, who is MD for NIQ in South Africa. To all my guests, thank you all for making the time. Now, Zach, I'm going to start with you because you recently published the State of the Retail Nation report where you tracked the shift in consumer sentiment within the past 9 months in 2024. What does the data tell you or indicate about some of the consumer shopping trends that you can expect to see this year?
Sure, yeah. So consumers have been quite constrained over the last few years in South Africa. Real wages have been under pressure, inflation's been there. But what we're seeing in our results, Vanessa, is an improvement. So there's still a lot of pressure there. Consumers are a lot more confident, though. We think that's got a lot to do with some large floats of money moving into their pockets. So we've seen increase in the social relief grant, for example. And then most recently, we've had the two-pot pension scheme. So we think these are playing into a little bit of confidence. Load shedding also ended. So we think there's quite a few things that are factoring in to consumers being a little bit more loose with the purse strings than what we've seen in the past.
Christine, let me come to you because you have seen a significant boom in e-commerce spending, and just given the limitations of COVID-19, many consumers have embraced the convenience and efficacy of shopping online. Speak to me about some of the trends in consumer behavior specifically in that space.
Absolutely. So what we have seen this year already is that even without all the exciting deals of Black Friday, we are seeing a 20% year-on-year growth in terms of e-commerce. So what we are seeing is this trend of moving from offline to online, and that trend is continuing in South Africa. And obviously, with the increase in consumer spending power from the change in interest rates and also from two-pot, we are expecting the consumer being in a much better position to actually pursue the deals coming out of Black Friday.
Craig, I'm sure you must be smiling ear to ear just hearing about the spike in online shopping that will be expected this time around, because this means you'll be kept in business and busy, right? But let's zero in on the retailers that stand to benefit the most during the season, especially given the fact that shoppers have increasingly become savvy and budget conscious. What type of purchases have you found that consumers prioritize during this period?
So certainly from our perspective, we're seeing an increase in repeat customers, so customers coming back and repurchasing, and also basket sizes increasing. It's a little bit difficult for us to say really what exactly they're purchasing, but the frequency is definitely increased, and we've seen repeat orders coming through, repeat deliveries happening to the same consumers. Like we're seeing a lot of textiles and clothing coming to the business, but also the smaller parcels in general is increasing quite dramatically.
And have you identified an opportunity for new market disruptors that could convince shoppers differently or latch on consumers' emotional hook?
So look, I think certainly in terms of the delivery process, so out-of-home deliveries is becoming increasingly more popular. So where customers are wanting to collect their parcels from a parcel locker, like our Courier locker network, or alternatively through our kiosk network, or from a pickup point. These are just far more convenient for the consumer these days than sitting at home and waiting for the delivery. So we're seeing the out-of-home disrupting the typical delivery market for these e-commerce purchases, definitely changing the face of the last mile.
Zach, let me come back to you. In your study, you revealed that 42% of South African consumers believe they're in a better financial position. And while that may be the case, priorities have shifted to getting value for money. Talk to me about some of the factors that may be influencing spending at this time.
Yeah, so everybody's on the hunt for good deals. Like I said, the consumer is under a lot of pressure. We've seen inflation come down quite a lot, which is obviously helping, but inflation is still there. So yeah, consumers are changing how they're shopping. We see that reflected in what they're telling us, but we also see that reflected in the sales data that we track. So they are buying in bulk a little bit more. That might be explaining the increase in the size of those parcels that are being delivered. In some cases, they're also looking for smaller packs. So it's a little bit of a mixed strategy from a customer's perspective, but the underlying reason why they're doing that is to try to find better value for money. We're also seeing that they're concentrating their spend a little bit more, so focusing on specific retailers, especially those that provide a little bit of perceived value back in kind of loyalty schemes and that sort of thing. Yeah, so they're very price and promo focused as well. They're a lot more price sensitive and promotionally sensitive than consumers that we see in other markets. And of course, all of those interests, what consumers are looking for, it's playing very much into what Black Friday can offer. And that's why we see Black Friday sales so critical to not just FMCG, but in particular tech and durables. So on the tech and durables side, in fact, Black Friday is really the key week for sales. You can make or break your entire year just on Black Friday alone. I think it's about 2 times the sales we see in a typical week happening in the Black Friday week. So Black Friday definitely crucial for T&D, tech and durables. A little bit less so perhaps for FMCG. FMCG still the key period is the Christmas period. But yeah, definitely Black Friday, crucial to consumers' calendar of shopping over the year.
But just speaking on the importance of Black Friday and what it offers, just in terms of the discounts and promotions, I have seen and heard a few comments made by shoppers that the event doesn't mean anything anymore and that the discounts aren't even steep enough for them to care. How do you see retailers shifting their market strategies to not only attract consumers, but protect and boost bottom lines?
Sure. So I think, well, the retailers do care, the consumers still care, they're very deal hungry. Depth of discount, we're not anticipating the depth of discount to be as extreme this year as what we had last year on the tech and durables side. So on the tech and durables side last year, we saw some really extreme discounting up to about 50% in some cases. We think that was a lot to do with stock clearance. So we're not facing that scenario this year. So I don't think the deals are going to be perhaps as significant as what we had last year. But depth of discount still should be there on the tech and durable side. On the grocery side, last year we saw depth of discount on average at about 24%, I think. And that's quite a lot higher than what we typically see in an average week of about 17%. So, yeah, consumers might be a little bit frustrated and fatigued with it, but I think retail and consumers have figured out the place for Black Friday in their whole sort of like repertoire. We understand what we're looking for. I think retailers have a clear idea of what to offer and which categories Black Friday works on. Like in FMCG, for example, like I said, Christmas remains that key period. Black Friday maybe a little bit less so, but Black Friday's almost become like a prelude to the Christmas discounts, and we see the discounts just continuing throughout the month. So I think it would be really a mistake not to engage with Black Friday. Even though, you know, from a consumer's perspective and maybe a retailer's perspective, there is a bit of fatigue, but it is just so crucial to the consumer calendar and the purchases they're going to make. It would be a big mistake not to engage, both from a retailer's perspective as well as a consumer's perspective.
Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about payments. And Christine, this is where you come in. Now, while card payments remain the most popular way to make purchases, what we are also seeing is that alternative payment methods such as cashless transactions are on the rise. Speak to me about this proliferation of contactless payments and why is it so important for businesses?
This is actually a very exciting period when it comes to e-commerce. The variety of payment options, you know, is really also opened up, you know, our ability to shop online. So what we have seen since the COVID period is also a proliferation of usage of the different digital wallets. So we are seeing, you know, very strong growth in Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, and all these digital wallets. And it's actually also being used both for large amounts, but also for small purchases. I think at the moment we're also seeing sort of average cards average wallet spend to be about 320 Rand or so per transaction. That gives you an indication on the type of transactions the customers are using it for.
And what about cryptocurrencies? Is there any usage of these digital tokens as a payment option in a market like South Africa?
Well, these are obviously long-term trends that we are starting to see. Some of the interesting shifts that we are also seeing is usage of more premium type of payment. For example, we've recently launched Absa Pay, which is actually allowing customers, even if they don't have a debit card, to be able to access the traditional EFT and with the enhanced security to be able to make online payments in a more secure way. So these are really new abilities and new avenues to be able to access e-commerce. And what we are also seeing is that obviously the digital wallet, with the tokenized payment has become exceptionally popular, and also in the offline spend as well as the online spend.
Yeah, Christine, there's no question that, e-commerce giants like Your Take Your Lot, Superbalist, Amazon have put so much pressure on traditional brick and mortar stores. From the transactions that you have tracked, have you found any difference or similarities between the type of shopper that prefers in-store over online? Christine, this one is still for you.
Oh, sorry, I missed the question. Do you mind repeating that?
Of course. It's just I wanted to find out whether from the transactions in the study that you have conducted, is there any difference or similarity between the type of shopper that prefers in-store over online? Speak to me about these demographics.
Well, actually, this is a very interesting question. So a couple of trends that we have seen from our transactional intelligence insights that have revealed. So first of all, I think what we have seen very consistently across the board is that customers were regularly trading down in terms of the brands that they were engaging in. And I think this is really just a reflection of the consumer sentiment. The second thing is what we are also seeing is that irrespective of the demographics, the shift to online shopping is permanent. And, we often under the impression that older, more mature customers do not engage in online shopping, but that is absolutely not the case. I think since COVID, we are seeing that the shift, even for the more mature customers has actually happened. But what we are also seeing is obviously customers in more urban area with better digital access are obviously a lot more open to using e-commerce.
Interesting points there. Craig, I'm going to bring you in, just given the fact that some of the biggest e-commerce players in South Africa are your clients. And so given the expected surge in order volumes, what systems do you have in place to manage these high volumes and ensure seamless shipments?
Yes, I mean, with the advent of Black Friday, I don't know, a good few years ago, the planning around Black Friday has become quite an art, if you like. And in the business, we plan a good few months in advance. I'm in anticipation of Black Friday. And we have seen a bit of flattening in the peak around Black Friday, where a lot of the retailers are giving teasers late October, early November. And it's kind of flattened the curve a little bit. But nonetheless, there's significant planning around additional resources for deliveries to consumers, as well as people within our operation to do the sorting. And as Zach pointed out, it's quite a considerable spike that the retailers go through. And we feel that particularly from the online sales in our business. And we have to scale up, probably close on 40% in our business to accommodate those deliveries.
Zach, I'm going to pose the same question to you. In the case of traditional retailers, what then is the strategy or approach to remain competitive without having to increase operational costs?
So, I mean, it really depends who we're talking about. So some of these traditional brick and mortar players, they've of course got really important digital channels like Checker 6060. They're very much, I think, engaging in a bit of a platform war right now and utilizing Black Friday to acquire customers. We understand that when you've acquired customer within the ecosystem of an app, it's just a lot stickier and you can kind of trigger new offers to them on an ongoing basis. So that's a key strategy for them as well. But of course, we've had the introduction of Amazon to the market, which is very exciting. They started off, I think, playing it a little bit quiet, but what you've seen, I think, if you're driving around Johannesburg and Cape Town, you can see that they've really gone big on out-of-home advertising to, again, around the Black Friday period, trying to pull in new customers to that app, and then once they've got them in, lock them in a little bit, they can keep them sticky. The reality is brick and mortar is here to stay in South Africa, right? So we've had online now for quite some time. That's where we're seeing a lot of the growth. But is it growing the market? Probably not. It's at the moment, we think, more cannibalizing sales from brick and mortar. There is a lot of headroom for growth in online. So what we see, for example, in Western Europe, online can get to about 40% of the market for tech and durable products. For groceries, it's a lot lower. And in South Africa, I think at the moment we're around 10% of sales on tech and durable products going through online. So there's a bit of a headroom for growth in South Africa. So the Courier guys might be increasingly busy on an ongoing basis. A lot of headroom for growth. But we do think brick and mortar is here to stay. I think also in the South African context, you got to consider shopping is a bit of like an entertainment, right? It's a weekend activity that families and couples and people engage in. So you're never going to get that kind of like instant gratification and theater that consumers really want. From an online experience, but obviously it can give you real, excellent deals, convenience, and that sort of thing. So we think the strategy will be mixed, but there is headroom for growth for online in South Africa. But like I said, not really growing the market. It's shifting spend from one channel to the other.
Okay. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. But just as a final thought, to give me your own, I just want your own individual estimations of the amount that will be injected in South Africa's economy from all the anticipated sales at this year's Black Friday. And Zach, I will start with you.
Well, I don't think we're anticipating things to be totally out of line with what we saw last year. On the FMCG and grocery side, we saw about 11 billion rand of sales in the Black Friday week, and that's contrasting to about 8 billion rand that we see in an average week. So a big uptick. And then on the tech and durable side, so this is anything with a plug basically, which, like I said, Black Friday is the key week of the whole year. Last year, we saw about 2.7 billion rand of sales. We're anticipating something very much in line with that. The reality is the fundamentals aren't there to allow us to predict anything that's totally out of line with what we saw last year. But, customers do have a little bit more money, especially coming from Two-Pot, which they could utilize for those bigger ticket purchases on the tech and durable side.
Mm-hmm. And Craig, what's your estimation?
I'll give that to you in parcel volume, in terms of courier parcel volume. So, I mean, we expect to see probably conservatively about 25% growth in volume on last year. With the exchange rate dropping, the interest rate dropping again yesterday, that might, create more excitement around shopping. So anywhere between 25 to 30%, we see growth year on year in terms of the online black market activities.
And finally, Christine, what's your estimation?
Great. Well, I think it's actually important to say that I think for Black Friday itself, it may not be as exciting as we're probably going to see double-digit growth, but probably it's going to be a more managed process all the way into December, because a lot of inflow of new funding from improved interest rate, all of that is going to still take some time to get into our consumers' wallet. So it's not going to be an immediate hit by Black Friday.
Got you. Well, let's reconvene post the Black Friday shopping spree. But to all my guests, thank you for making the time. And that was Christine Wu, Chief Executive for Everyday Banking over at Absa, Craig Pitchers, CEO of the Courier Guy, and Zach Haeri, who is Managing Director for NIQ in South Africa.